Hi, Nisarga here. Welcome into second episode, and I will be talking about trauma and trauma release. So first, I would like to ask you a question. Have you ever had some traumatic event in your life that stopped you from living your full potential right now? And what do I mean by traumatic event is any past experiences that were too overwhelming for normal coping mechanism of your body or were too invasive for your nervous system, meaning that they created sense of shock, panic or immobility. And we all have had some traumatic events in the past, and for many of us the first of our traumatic event was our childbirth. For many of us it was very intense experience. And one of the most efficient way from releasing trauma and working with trauma is to uncouple the immobility and fear of immobility that comes from past traumatic event with presence and resourcing and awareness. To make it clear, let me tell you a little story. One of my traumatic events from the past was when I was in primary school. I remember a time when teacher asked me to come in front of the class and present some subject. And it was first time in my life that I remember feeling a sense of shame, lack of self-esteem and unworthiness. And on the top of it, the class started to make fun of me. So you can only imagine my state. I got into shock, into panic, into freeze, into immobilization. I remember for many years in my high school and my university, this event particularly had a tremendous impact on me because each time I would even think of speaking publicly or presenting something publicly, I would go into panic and a sense of immobility, freeze. Later on, about 8-9 years ago, I met Giten Tonkov, and the method he created, biodynamic breath and trauma release. And this method really helped me tremendously to release a lot of trauma from my body, from my system, and understanding how traumatic event from the past really affected my life in many different levels. So biodynamic breath and trauma release works with few segments. Work with deep connected breathing, conscious movement, conscious dance, conscious touch and meditation, and trauma release exercises. And in this method, throughout the session, while you going into deep connected breathing, there are 4 major steps that help us to unlock traumatic event and live more potential in our life, live more energy that floods through our body, through that release. So the person who is going into the session, first of all, we ask the person, we support the person to go into scanning the body, bringing awareness into bodily sensations. That's basically a tool that helps person to come into the present moment, into their body. In the second step, the person is asked to also bring awareness into the places of the body which are more disconnected, frozen, there is not much feelings there, there's sense of immobility. And this is coming from the traumatic event from the past, when the person was in the event, went into the state of shock, panic, and the body froze. Now the third step, we support a person to uncouple the fear from immobility that comes from that event with presence, resourcing, and awareness. And in the fourth step, we are supporting person to slow down the experience, to be more present, to bring more resourcing, and to be more aware of this experience. So it's not overwhelming from the nervous system, but it supports that person to consciously touch to this experience and release from their body the traumatic event, and not only psychologically but also physically, that tremendous amount of energy that is stuck in their body. So in my case, the trauma appeared around my throat and around my upper chest. For many years I had a problem with speaking. I had a blockage in my throat, and I had a problem with deep breath because this belt around the neck and shoulders was in state of immobility. So only after releasing that trauma I was able to uncouple the fear of immobility that was coming from that past event and be able to speak, to share, and to have opened up that part of my body. Now, to understand a little bit better why these 4 steps are so effective in trauma healing, let me tell you a little about anatomy of trauma. Let's presume you are facing some very intense and challenging situation in your life. What happened to you that your sympathetic nervous system goes into something called flight or fight. It's automatic response from your body to go into state of alertness, hyperactivity, so you are ready to face this event, this challenging situation, either with fight or with flight, with runaway. So in this state, your heart rate starts raising up, your blood pressure goes up, you release a lot of adrenaline, you inject to your system a lot of chemicals that makes you in state of hyperactivity and readiness to face that challenging situation. So your body there's a lot of activity, hyperactivity, and readiness to face it. Now, if that experience is even too overwhelming for flight or fight, parasympathetic nervous system comes in place and shuts down the flight or fight and comes with freeze, immobility. And that is simply compassion of the nature that helps us not to feel in the dangerous situation. It helps us to disconnect from our sensations. So in case if the event is threatening our life, threatening our our body, so we can hurt ourselves, we don't feel in case of, let's say, accident, we don't feel the pain that and of the injury in our body. But what happened is that we are in the state of freeze, immobility, but also underneath we still have the cycle of fight or flight running underneath, still raising the heartbeat, the heart pressure, releasing the adrenaline. So if that cycle is not complete, that we carry on in our life all this anxiety or disconnection in our system. So the 4 steps that I was talking about before are designed to help you consciously complete the cycle of fight or flight, complete all these chemicals that are running in your body, and complete emotionally and physically release the tension from your body that is cycling underneath. So those 4 simple steps are very useful in trauma work. And I hope it was useful for you. If you find this information useful, and then I would like you to comment underneath or put like or forward to some of your friends that you think might benefited from this information. And also this method, biodynamic breath and trauma release, is also available as a training, as a workshops in our institute. So if you are drawn to find out more, then I will invite you to click on healinginstitute.com, the website, European Institute of Body-Oriented Healing Arts, go into calendar and find out more. So I hope it was useful, and thank you for watching the 2nd episode. Thank you. Bye for now.